A long, long time ago, I got a small green bubble tip anemone for 40 bucks. I was so excited. I put him in my tank and I hoped for the best. A few days passed by and everything is fine. Well, at least everything seemed fine. Then overnight, I wake up to a shredded anemone. How did it happen, you ask? The powerhead. He was the one who sucked it up. Now at the time, I knew anemones moved if they were unhappy, but I had never heard of an anemone getting sucked up. You see, anemones don't just walk across the rocks in your aquarium. It can let go completely and just fly around until it grabs onto something. Mine decided to get murdered, but I'll tell you a good way to prevent this later on in the video. Anyways, months later, I got this guy after it had split in my family's 75-gallon. I shoved small pieces of silver side in his mouth every 3 to 4 days until he split. It was fast. He's 3 times bigger than the green tip was, so I didn't worry about turning my power head off this time. Everything was great. He stayed in the same spot I put him in for weeks. Well, he decided to split again despite me not feeding him extra. It happens. So I immediately turned off my power head because this guy was so tiny. Now some anemones after splitting will start hiding under rocks to heal. It's nothing to worry about. Unless you have coral you really like. So I moved my frags to the sand until the anemones get settled and pick a stable spot. I'll get on to how to move anemones also in this video. Now here's a tip to prevent what happened to me from happening to you. I bought a small media bag. The fluval ones have a really cool clip so it doesn't have a cheap weak string like the majority of media bags you'll find, and I covered the power head with it. So now, your anemone can't get sucked up even if it tried to, and it's an extra filter now! If you want to move your anemone, here's some things you need to know. Number 1. Remember that it's not guaranteed that it'll stay where you place it, but you still have a good chance. Plus, you're helping the guy out since you obviously have the eyes to see the best spot for him. Number 2. Be super gentle. Injuring the foot can be deadly if you're not careful. You have to be very patient with this. Number 3. Make sure your hands are clean. Unless you have gloves for this, you're going to have to touch that anemone. So you want to make sure you don't have anything on your hands that could harm your anemone. Side note, I have personally never been stung by rose anemones. They just tend to stick to your hands and that's about it. So how do you move it? There are 3 ways that I know of. The first way is a power head. You point the power head directly at the anemone's foot and in time it will start to let go of the rock. When that happens, you can place your hand under the base and gently nudge the foot off the rock. But this may take hours, it's a hit or miss. The second technique is holding an ice cube on its foot. I really wouldn't recommend this unless you're doing this along with the power head method. The ice is going to melt quick, obviously, so be sure to have a lot prepared. Be ready for a sore arm and cramped hand. The last way I know of is only if you're lucky. In my case, I was. If it's on the glass, you can take a credit card or a scraper to gently remove the foot. This is super easy and quick. You could also try this with anemones that don't have its foot wedged inside a rock. If you're not as fortunate as me, you may just have to move the rock to wherever you want it. If the rock isn't movable, you're in for a long ride to move the stubborn guy. I would advise to not irritate it any longer than 2 hours at a time. You don't want to stress it out to the point of death. You may have to try several times before he'll start moving, but sometimes it's just not meant to be.